Hello, I'm Pip Muir and I am the chair of the Headmasters Council at Auckland Grammar School. I'm also a partner and the chair of the law firm Simpson Grierson, and I'm delighted to be here with you today. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Philippa. I'm Matthew McKee and I'll be interviewing you here today. So how are you today?
Nice to meet you. I'm very good, thank you.
How did you first become connected with Auckland Grammar School, and what encouraged your continued involvement in the grammar community?
My first introduction to Auckland Grammar was when one of the founding partners of my law firm, Simpson Grierson, passed away at 92 years of age. And for context, he was still working until the week before he died at our law firm, driving his car into work. And when he passed away, his funeral was held here at Auckland Grammar School in the Great Hall, because he'd been a senior prefect and captain of the First 15 for a couple of years. He was selected for the All Blacks, but elected to stay and do his university study rather than join what became the Invincibles tour. So he was quite a legend, and he was mayor of Pukekohe and also founded our law firm. And so they knew it was going to be a very big turnout for his funeral, and he always said he wanted to have it in the Great Hall at Auckland Grammar if he could. So that was in the 1990s. I'd just come back from working in London and had joined Simpson Grierson, and I was on the same floor as Max Grierson in our firm, and I thought he was a wonderful senior partner and a great sort of role model for so many of us. So I came here and walked into the Great Hall for that funeral. It was the first time I came here, and my first impressions were of the history and the legacy in the school and all the names round the walls, and sitting there and sharing in the incredible eulogies and talking about Max Grierson's life and what the school had meant to him. And then secondly, both of our sons came to school here. My son Will in 2009 was when he started, and Ben in 2011. So I've had two sons through the school as well, and then I joined the board in 2009 and really have had a bit of an association with it ever since. As the current headmaster, Mr. O'Connor, would say, it's a bit like Hotel California, and I'm sure you've heard that before. You just never leave.
So you've certainly left your mark on the grammar community, first through your work on the Board of Trustees and now as chair of the Headmasters Council. Thus, in what ways would you be able to give us an insight into how the vast grammar community works together so cohesively?
Well, I think there are different support groups and organisations as part of the wider grammar community that all pull together, and experience is drawn on from those different parts in different ways. You know, the Board of Trustees has a significant role in managing the assets of the school and the finances and staff welfare and all of those greater strategic issues. And then you've got other entities like the Foundation Trust, and you've got the Headmasters Council that I'm on. They all are part of the greater community, and I think anyone who gets an opportunity to contribute to the school and step up and assist in any way they can, because so many different people as part of our community have different skills and life experience, and it adds to the diversity that is Auckland Grammar. I encourage anyone to grab that opportunity and to contribute if you do get the opportunity.
So what does it mean to be the first female chair of the Headmasters Council?
Well, first of all, it nearly didn't happen because there's a clause in the Constitution for the Headmasters Council that says the Old Boys Association has to select the chair from their membership, and of course I'm not an old boy and never could be. So that was a slight stumbling block, because I'd been on the Headmasters Council for a while, and Rob Kirkpatrick, who's a former who was the chair of the Headmasters Council, and I'm sure he's been interviewed by your group, because of course he was head boy and a captain of the First 15, and a stellar academic record, and went on to have a great academic career at the University of Auckland. He was stepping down as chair and asked if I would take over, but then we found there was this problem with the Constitution. Anyway, it was solved by the Old Boys Association offering to make me an adjunct member of the Old Boys Association. So I have to say, it's a first for me, being part of an old boys association. Never thought I'd see the day, but I was delighted and honoured to do that. And I think, to your point, we've taken a long way to get round to it, to your point, It is a privilege to bring a woman's perspective into a male-dominated school, a boys-only school, and the life experience that we have as females, as mothers, as sisters, part of that wider and diverse grammar community. So I do feel honoured to be able to do this and to continue to contribute at the school that I care so much about.
And as someone who has been associated with Auckland Grammar School for a long time, how would you like to see Auckland Grammar grow in the next 10 to 15 years?
Well, I was thinking about this, and I think there are a lot of challenges for state schools in particular at the moment, with compression on government funding. The government has had to pivot to put an awful lot of funding into the COVID relief fund, and we've got huge cost of living increases, inflationary challenges, and so the funding for schools like Auckland Grammar are constrained. So there will be challenges going forward. You've just seen what's been happening in the space for teacher salaries, and those are issues for grammar. We've got issues with zoning, we've got infrastructure challenges, there are opportunities with moving into the digital space and all of that, but keeping this school running to the excellent standard is an ongoing challenge, and I think that will only be more so as we see that pressure from inner city living, more people wanting to be in the zone, more challenges on the number of students who can come to the school, and how you fund that and how you continue to ensure the high standards of excellence that we expect here. So I think there's a wonderful community to support all of that, but I don't think it's necessarily going to be straightforward going forward.
And what have been some highlights of your vast career in employment law, and what are some significant insights you've gained within this field specifically?
I think one of the things I'm most proud of is setting up Simpson Grierson's employment law group from scratch when I came back from London. And that's something that I've loved doing, and we're now a big national practice throughout New Zealand, and that's been wonderful. And employment law is now very much a developed part of most law firms throughout New Zealand and the world, and it certainly wasn't when I first came back to New Zealand. And contributing in that way has been really great, and I've thoroughly enjoyed that. Some of the cases that I've been involved in the law have also been challenging. We're a large law firm, so primarily our clients are large corporates. But I have to say some of the cases that have stayed with me have been the ones where we've battled for the underdog, where I, for example, acted many years ago for a senior sergeant in the police force who was bullied to such an extent that he had a stress-related permanent breakdown and couldn't return to work. And we tried to get compensation for him from the police, for which they would have to accept some fault on their part that led to the permanent breakdown, and they wouldn't. So we had to go to the employment court, the Court of Appeal, and eventually we got the biggest at that time stress-related compensation payment to him in New Zealand, and also earnings-related compensation through to what would have been his retirement. It didn't ever give him his job back or his health, but it was satisfying. And it's those kind of cases and those kind of people. I stayed close to that family for years because it was traumatic for all of their family and very hard for them to continue to fight that battle, but so worth it in the long run. And I think the other area that I've really loved has been the cultural reviews, some of which I've done recently, where I've been asked, where issues have been raised with regard to some, for example, our national sporting teams. I last year did the review into the Black Ferns culture and environment, and that led to quite a few changes that NZR made to the women's rugby environment, and we then saw the results of that through what NZR and the players were able to do, not me, when I couldn't have been more proud to see them win the World Cup last year. That was amazing. And prior to that, I did a cultural review into the football ferns, so in the women's football space. And at that time, and as is generally the case, because we don't have a national women's team in New Zealand, they were all playing for Chelsea or here, there, around the world. So those interviews were all done via Zoom or Teams, and it gave me a whole new insight into the sacrifices players, men and women, make to play for their country, where you haven't, say, got a national team in the country and you have to try and win scholarships to universities overseas so you can play for their teams, and then ultimately what you want to do is be selected for the national team and play in those pinnacle events. So they have been really satisfying doing a lot of those reviews, and that kind of work has been rewarding and fascinating.
So what made you pursue a career in law?
Well, I don't think many don't sort of know what they're doing at school, and I'm sure many of you aren't totally set on what you're going to do. I grew up in a country town in the Waikato, and there was no local university law school. There is now, obviously, Waikato Law School, but there wasn't at the time. And I enjoyed English, history, debating, and my father was a teacher, and he just always encouraged me to keep being a lifetime learner and do something that he felt I could continue to learn in. And my mother was a dental nurse, and she said, make sure you have a career that if you do want to go back to, if you want to take time out for certain reasons, whether it's to have a family or whatever, that you have a career that you can come back to. As a dental nurse, when she was a dental nurse, when she became pregnant and had children, that was the end of her career. And that always stayed with me, to ensure that you had something that you could continue to grow in and continue to enjoy. And I've been really fortunate in the law in that there's never been a dull moment. You never feel like you totally get on top of it. There's always new legislation, new cases, new challenges, new cultural norms. And if you're fortunate enough to work in an area that you really enjoy, like for me, it's been employment law, then it's just continued to be really enjoyable to come to work every day and continue to learn. And the people that I work with, the clients that I have, the opportunities you can have to assist them has been worth it.
So you've been involved in a number of notable organisations, such as the Auckland Writers Festival, Sweet Louise Foundation and the Fletcher Building Employee Educational Fund, all of which seek to positively impact the community through education, charity and culture. How do you think such organisations can best influence the community, and what motivates your vast and diverse involvement in them?
Well, I think again that goes back to the environment I grew up in. I had parents that were very involved in the community and taught us about wanting to give back, and I'd encourage anyone who gets the opportunity to join not-for-profits, charitable organisations. Not everyone can, it depends whether you've got time and can afford to do those kind of things, but they're very rewarding. And you meet such a diverse group of people. It's a bit like contributing to the grammar community, helping an organisation like Sweet Louise, which is providing services for people with incurable breast cancer. You know, you're trying to help people with enormous challenges in their lives. There's quite a lot that I like to do that is involved in education and is involved in arts and literature too. My husband and I both care greatly about trying to ensure that the arts can flourish in society, and so being involved in the Auckland Writers Festival has been an opportunity for me to give back in that space. And my husband was very involved on the board of the Ballet Foundation and the Auckland Theatre Company, those kind of things. So we've been fortunate that we've had the time with our careers to be able to give back to those areas where, particularly through recent times with COVID, when all of the performing arts just effectively shut down. So to be able to assist, provide some governance experience or support them in other ways has been great. And it's part of the kind of areas that we really care about. The things we enjoy attending. Education is something that's always been a big part. Having a father who was a teacher, it's been something that's always been a big part of my life, and to contribute through schools such as Auckland Grammar and to be on the trust of the Fletcher Building Educational Fund has had synergies and something that I, again, have been very happy to contribute to.
What key pieces of advice would you provide to young aspiring lawyers at Auckland Grammar School and alumni currently pursuing a career in law?
I think you have to try and find an area of the law that you really enjoy, and so don't feel you should pigeonhole yourself or get too narrow too early. Try a number of different areas, because not everyone's suited to corporate M&A deals. When they're on, and it's a lot of hard work and it's high intensity. It's great and lots of people love it. But other people might find that they want to be a litigator and want to go into that sort of area. Or some people want to do family law, some want to do criminal law. Don't specialise too early, keep your options open. And I think then the law can be a really great career for people. There are also different areas of the law that you can go into that mightn't be like my choice in a big law firm. You know, you might want to go in-house, be a general counsel in a corporate organisation, be at the bar. There is different flexibility and different styles that suit, and there are lots of opportunities in the law. And it's also a great degree just in terms of the rigour for any business opportunity you might want to go into, knowing about contracts, understanding, you know, property side of business, that sort of thing, will stand everyone in good stead. So, you know, my first piece of advice is don't specialise too early and talk to a lot of people, find out from anyone you do know what opportunities could be, and try and find something that you will continue to enjoy, because you're going to be working for a long time, so you want to find a career that you can really enjoy and be the best person, bring your best self to the job.
How do you think high-achieving women like yourself can advise grammar men to support women in both the workplace and wider community?
Well, hopefully these days the grammar community is wide enough that there are now such wonderful female teachers at the school. There are a lot of associations as part of the school where there are a lot of women who are role models in there. And we've got a society now where we've had a number of female prime ministers, mayors, chief executives, chief justices who are women. And so I would hope that the role of women in the workforce, in positions of power, in positions of influence, and as supporters of men and growing, you know, people in society is now a lot more normalised, I would hope. But I know there's still some way to go, but that goes for all minority groups, and there are still some challenges. But I think while this is a boys' state school, there are a lot of women in roles in the school and in the support networks to help influence that. So the more you can do to bring those people in and have them talking to groups of students, the better that will be for our future.
And how do you mentor aspiring lawyers in your workplace?
Well, I tell them to not feel like you have to achieve everything by your early 20s. You know, take your time. Don't specialise too early, as I said before. I think that's really important. And ensure that any wins you have or any success that you have is measured not by the result, but by how you do the job. Because it should be all about your integrity, the values you bring, your hard work. All of that is the important part of it, and I'd like to think that then, as you grow in your careers, that's how you'll be seen, as a person who is fair, who does the best they can but doesn't cut those corners, and therefore the results should hopefully speak for themselves.
And this is our final question. Who are 3 people from history you admire and why?
Well, there are so many. I mean, gosh, where do you begin and stop? One I always say, if anyone ever asks me this, is Elizabeth I. I would love to have met her, you know, such a young queen in such a patriarchal society, and I'd really love to ask her about how she beat the Spanish Armada, but she's not around to talk to me. But you know, there's a lot about her that people are critical of these days, but it must have been a lonely and incredibly tough job, and I really do admire so much. There are, you know, there's a bit on both sides of the ledger, but she'd be the first one. I think the second one for me as a lawyer would have to be Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I would love to have met her, and I really admire her. Only the second ever woman on the Supreme Court and the first Jewish woman there. Such a role model on issues for women, issues for minorities, and later, of course, known as the Great Dissenter. But she was such a centrist person. She always tried to find the middle ground. Did she stay on too long? Should she have made way for someone else before she passed away, and then it gave, you know, Trump the opportunity to bring someone in? I don't know, but I admire her greatly. So she'd be my second one. And I think probably my third one, I'm going to cheat slightly and I'm going to say 2, and it would be Barack and Michelle Obama. I admire them greatly. First African American President of the United States, first African American First Lady of the United States, high achieving lawyers, you know, Michelle at Princeton and then Harvard, Barack Obama as the president of Harvard Law Review, you know, such a prestigious position, and then all they've achieved, both sides of the ledger, when they were in the White House. Never forgetting their roots, always thinking about the people, and some of the policies that President Obama was able to roll out were really significant. Not all, you know, favourable legacy, but some great things there. And certainly Michelle as a First Lady, with her emphasis on minority groups and on nutrition and healthcare, I think, I think they will still do so much more. And their history is recent, but really important. So that's me.
Well, that concludes our interview today, but I want to thank you very much for your time, and I really appreciate all your
A pleasure.
responses.
Thank you for your questions.